So again, this first my actual videos consist of one of the current topics going around in the media at this moment, that of Paula Deen. Now, granted, according to all the information I've heard of, which before I continue, I should first say I would highly recommend subscribing to the Young Turks. They are pretty much the best news source that I've found in quite a long time. They've heavily covered the story, along with more of your mainstream outlets like Fox News, and of course the ever so popular tabloids. Of course, if you haven't really heard of the issues, pretty much it has come out that at one point in the past, I believe it was about 30 years ago or so, during a deposition, Paula Deen used some racist language. And if I'm not mistaken, she was then asked, to use this language all the time, or at least something to that effect, to which her reply was, of course. Now, I understand it is 2013, and the fact that racism is indeed a very bad thing. However, if all she is truly guilty of is using the dreaded N-word 30 years ago, and currently no longer holds those views, ideas, or anything of that nature, perhaps our reaction to her is a massive overreaction instead. I completely disagree with the idea that the Food Network has dropped her, and I've also heard rumors that Walmart has done the same. Which, if that's the case, it's so far overreacting, it's beyond even the realm of simple comedic humor. She was a woman who, in the past, made a choice, said the wrong thing, and yet now her entire world is crumbling because of it. If perhaps, say she was a member of the KKK and been involved in lynchings and murder, but was still an active member today, and publicly, or even privately, that became public, expressed those same views, then this reaction may be more valid. But given the fact that, to the best of my knowledge, she hasn't, it blows my mind that we as America, given all the other things that are currently occurring, such as I just watched where Egypt had a revolution, well, more of a military coup at the moment, no one's calling it that, but in essence that's what it is. Their president refused to concede to their ideas, and so they removed him. So given all that's going on in the world, the whole NSA scandal with Snowden and everything else, the fact that a woman's choice of words 3 decades ago is such a massively important topic bothers me. As a side note, when I was married the last time, to this day I still distinctly remember this occurrence, and it actually made me quite happy. When I was married the last time, I actually had 2 stepsons, and at one point, I can't remember the exact day, of course, however, it was late at night, and if any of you have cable or satellite or anything of that nature, you'll know that after a certain time at night, like Comedy Central no longer will edit any of their material, which I fully support anyway. However, there's a black comedian on, I can't remember his name, however, he was going for the cheap racist joke laughs, using racial slurs and discriminatory comments, etc. And the majority of his jokes. I'm not sure if that was just his standard routine or he was just going for cheap laughs, one of the two. However, my stepson at the time, I believe he was about 12 or 13. Both of them were actually really good friends with one of the families that lived down the street, and they happened to be black. He actually started to, I guess I should say first that my stepsons were both white, still are, obviously. He started to repeat a bunch of the jokes he was hearing, so we were sitting there watching it, word for word. And, you know, when it got to the N-word and all that, he was repeating it, I told him that he may not want to do that, given the fact that he's white and it's a racial slur toward black people. He actually looked at me and said, I don't know that that's a bad word. His friend, who was named Hayden, Hayden says it all the time, and I never knew it was a bad word. That made me extremely happy. Now granted, at the time we lived on Mount Air Force Base, which is here in Montana, which is where I currently live. So perhaps it was a case of it being Great Falls, Montana, and perhaps having a low, you know, racial discrimination or just racial inequality area here, or it's just honestly the fact that until that point he'd never known that there were racial terms that you couldn't say, or words that you couldn't say to other people, or that carried such instantaneous anger. And that makes me happy for the future. If a child born in 1996 can learn at 13 that there's a word that's bad for him to say because he happens to be of one color, and while his friend of another color it's okay for him to say, perhaps there's hope for people in general that maybe in my lifetime this idea of racism will just finally stop. Now, that's not to say that I don't believe that in the past there were such atrocities done from one group to another, but at what point as a species can we move past that? So there's a quick little overview of my thoughts on racism and Paula Deen and such, and here to say hello is Feisty, one cat. I'm sure he'll show up randomly if he feels like it in other videos, as is his way. So I thank you for watching. Please comment, good, bad, indifferent. We'll see where this goes from here. Please subscribe if you really like what you've seen so far. Believe me, there is no end to the topics that I'm going to cover, both from what I've read, from what I've heard, perhaps complete BS, perhaps not, but we'll see where this goes. And if you want to go along for the ride, I'll take you. Thank you.